Imagine walking along the shore of a lake and finding a bird, perfectly still, not sleeping, not resting. Stone cold, its feathers intact, its claws curled, its eyes frozen open, like it was alive just a moment ago, then suddenly, wasn't. Now imagine finding dozens of them. Flamingos, eagles, bats, all turned to stone, all preserved in perfect, eerie detail, like something ancient and invisible reached out of the water and simply stopped them. This is not a myth. This is not a movie set. This is a real place. And it sits quietly in the middle of East Africa, shimmering red under the sun, waiting. Welcome to Lake Natron, one of the most extreme, most mysterious, and most misunderstood places on Earth. And the truth about what this lake actually does is far stranger than anything you're imagining right now. Lake Natron is located in northern Tanzania near the Kenyan border at the foot of an active volcano called Doinyo Lengai. It's not the biggest lake in Africa, it's not the deepest, but it may be the most dangerous body of water on the continent, not just for animals, but potentially for humans too. From a distance, it almost looks beautiful. The water glows in shades of deep red, orange, and pink, like a sunset you could walk on. Flamingos line the shore in massive flocks, thousands of them, turning the edge of the lake into a living pink ribbon stretching as far as the eye can see. But step closer, and something feels wrong. The air carries a sharp chemical smell. The water is thick and slick. The shoreline is crusted with white mineral deposits, hard and brittle under your feet. And then, you see them. The petrified animals. Standing or lying, exactly as they were at the moment, something stopped them. The photographer who brought this lake to the world's attention was Nick Brandt, a wildlife photographer who traveled through East Africa documenting vanishing wildlife. In 2013, he discovered calcified animals along the shores of Lake Natron and photographed them. He posed some of them, propped them up as if still alive, and the images spread across the internet almost instantly. The world stopped. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. But what was actually happening? How does a lake turn living animals into stone? This is where the science gets extraordinary. Lake Natron is what scientists call a soda lake, a lake with extremely high levels of sodium carbonate and other minerals. The source? That volcano nearby, Doinyo Lengai, which is one of the only volcanoes on Earth that erupts nitrocarbonatite lava, a rare, highly alkaline material that slowly leaches into the lake's watershed. Over thousands of years, these minerals have built up in the water to levels that are almost unimaginable. The pH of Lake Natron can reach as high as 10.5. To put that in context, that's close to the pH of ammonia. It's caustic enough to burn human skin and eyes with prolonged exposure. And here's what happens when an animal dies in or near this water. The sodium carbonate, the same compound used in ancient Egypt to mummify bodies, acts as a natural preservative. It replaces the moisture in the animal's tissues. It hardens the outer layers, and over time it encases the creature in a mineral shell that can last for decades. They don't rot, they calcify, they become stone. But this is where things get even stranger, because not every animal that touches this lake dies. In fact, one species doesn't just survive here, it thrives, in numbers that seem impossible given the conditions. Lesser flamingos, around 75% of the world's entire population, breed exclusively at Lake Natron. Nowhere else on Earth. They choose this toxic, burning, alkaline lake as the place to raise their young. Why? How? The answer is almost beautiful in its logic. The extreme conditions that kill almost everything else act as a natural fortress. Predators cannot enter the lake. The caustic water keeps lions, hyenas, and birds of prey at a safe distance. The flamingos have adapted over millions of years to tolerate the alkalinity. Their thick skin and waxy legs resist the burning. Their specially evolved bills filter the algae that blooms in the bright, warm, mineral-rich shallows. Lake Natron doesn't threaten the flamingos. For them, it is the safest place on Earth. But other animals are not so lucky. Birds that fly low over the lake, confused by the mirror-like surface, sometimes crash into the water. Insects get trapped in the thick brine. Bats lose their bearings in the dark. And once in, the lake doesn't let go. The calcification process isn't instant. Scientists believe it takes weeks, sometimes months, for an animal to fully harden into stone. But the result is remarkable. A perfectly preserved, mineral-coated replica of the living creature. Some are so detailed you can see individual feathers. Individual scales, the curve of a beak, the tension in a claw. It's death as sculpture, the lake as an artist. Now you might wonder, if this place is so extreme, why hasn't it just stayed hidden? Why do people go there at all? That's where the human story begins. Because for the Maasai people who live around Lake Natron, this lake is not a mystery. It is simply home. They have lived alongside it for generations, using its salt deposits, respecting its power, building their lives in the shadow of a volcano next to a lake that most of the world would consider uninhabitable. And the lake provides. The mineral deposits around its shores have been harvested for centuries, used in trade, in food preservation, in ritual. The Maasai know better than to enter the water, but they also know better than to fear what they don't understand. It's the outside world that has struggled to make sense of it. When those photographs of petrified animals went viral in 2013, the headlines were dramatic. Some people called it a death lake. Others compared it to the underworld. Social media filled with speculation. Was it a curse, a supernatural event, a sign of something apocalyptic happening to the natural world? The truth, of course, was more interesting than any of that. But here's the detail that most people missed in all the excitement. The petrified animals Nick Brandt found, many of them likely didn't die from the lake itself. Scientists believe some of them were already dead from other causes, and were then carried by water or wind to the lake's edge, where the calcification process simply preserved them. Perfectly, eternally. The lake isn't necessarily a killer. It's more like a sculptor that only works with what death has already created, though it can absolutely be fatal. Make no mistake. And this is where things get genuinely strange, because even today, researchers don't fully understand the specific rate at which calcification occurs, or why some animals are preserved more completely than others. There are animals found near Natron that are only partially calcified. Others are so thoroughly encased they ring like rock when tapped. The chemistry is understood. The biology is understood. But the lake still holds surprises. In recent years, conservation concerns have grown around Lake Natron. Plans to build a soda ash processing plant near the lake sparked international outcry, not because of the lake itself, but because of those flamingos. Disturbing the breeding grounds of 75% of the world's lesser flamingo population could be catastrophic. Conservationists, scientists, and wildlife organizations rallied. The plans were eventually shelved, at least for now, but the pressure doesn't stop. The minerals in and around Lake Natron have significant commercial value, and as demand grows, so does the temptation to develop what sits beneath that strange red water. The lake exists at the intersection of beauty and danger, of science and myth, of preservation and threat, and it has for thousands of years. So what is Lake Natron really? It is a mirror that kills, a fortress for life, a sculptor of death, a chemical wonder that ancient Egypt would have recognized, that flamingos have turned into a sanctuary, and that the rest of the animal world avoids with instinctive, inherited caution. It is a lake where the water can burn you, but the birds sing, where nothing rots, but nothing escapes, unchanged, where a creature can die and stand in perfect stillness for decades, wings open, beak forward, frozen in the last moment it knew. The most fascinating detail of all? The calcification doesn't destroy the animals, it immortalizes them. In a strange, accidental, unplanned way, the deadliest lake on the continent has become the greatest natural preservation site in Africa. Death, here, is a kind of permanence, and Lake Natron will keep doing what it has always done. Long after we're gone, long after the headlines fade, long after the world moves on to the next great mystery. It will sit beneath the volcano, glowing red under the African sun, collecting its strange, perfect monuments to life that was. The world is full of places like this. Places that look like one thing and are entirely another. Places that kill and protect at the same time. Places that science can explain, but the soul still struggles to believe. Lake Natron is one of them, and now, you know why. Which part of this surprised you the most? The flamingos, the calcification process, or the fact that the animals may not have all died from the lake itself? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if you know of another mysterious place, a strange natural phenomenon, or a hidden story that the world should know about, drop it below. Your suggestion might become our next video. If you want more real-world mysteries, strange places, and stories that sound impossible but are completely true, subscribe. There's so much more to discover, because the world is still full of places we haven't fully explained yet. and some of the strangest ones are hiding in plain sight.